Rolling the film, this new actress type is a brand new model being introduced in Medarot S. It is ACT00 Cinema Queen. With a kit of Self-Restore, Inferno, Spinning, Tank Legs, and the leg ability of Tenacity, which is a brand new leg ability that grants up to a 30% Metaforce charge to self when a user breaks their own parts. Now, as a brand new model being introduced in Medarot S, I have to say, from an aesthetic point of view, I really dig the classy red and gold design that this actress type brings to the table, especially with the deceptive appeal that she is not bipedal as you'd think at first glance, but instead tank-legged, which means she's most certainly packing the heavy bulk and the damage reduction to make sure she stays on the field as long as possible. Self-Restore on the head part is a very limited skill that will be the first ever instance of this on a non-collab model. The first of which, of course, being on Kaiser Grid from the Gridman Universe collaboration. But to explain Self-Restore briefly, upon activation it will restore all broken parts to use again at 50% HP instead of the usual 10%. At the cost of having such a higher HP restoration on use, it does also mean, however, you only get one use of it. So do exercise a lot of caution if you are planning to use this as a burst healing, or even as a last-ditch effort if you find yourself cut into a corner. Because after you bring that one use, you are going to be stuck relying on any other healers on the field to make sure that you can stay in business longer than desired. Inferno on the right arm is an ultra-powerful shooting attack which basically merges microwave and blow away all into one. But to explain it briefly, it does have the damage bonuses and modifiers that a microwave does, meaning it is tied relative to the user's Metaforce gauge and not their HP like standard sacrifice. In addition to that, it will also self-destruct upon use. However, the added bonus to Inferno is that upon attacking the target, you will also push them away from you. So that means you can either stall their heat phase by basically blowing them backward by overloading your arm, or if it's mistimed, you can also accelerate their cooldown phase by, again, pushing them away from you so hard you blow your arm off. So a little bit of caution is advised and just a little bit of juggling is recommended so you don't accidentally mistime this immensely powerful attack. Spinning on the left arm is basically just the melee variant of it, but also serving as an inverse. So much like Inferno, it is packing very similarly to Microwave, or in this case, Micro Shock as the melee variant. So it does have a damage bonus reliant on Metaforce charge instead of HP, and it does have some very high bonuses on top of that. However, the drawback and catch to Spinning is that in addition to overloading your arm, much like Inferno does, and in it self-destructing, Spinning will instead pull the target closer to Cinema Queen. So this does give her not just an outlet in high power and high damage output between Inferno and Spinning, but between the two moves, it also gives her the ability and a hand in a crowd control as long as she knows how to time using both of these attacks. And the new leg ability of Tenacity actually does synergize with herself decently well once you can get a charging some hits going, because it does apply a 30% Metaforce charge to self for every part broken that she personally breaks herself. So a little bit of caution is going to be advised on that, as self-destruction is usually not the most recommended thing on the field, but if done correctly and covered with a proper shielder and a healer, you can make use of it remarkably well. Especially since Tenacity does give a Metaforce charge, which does tie back into Inferno and Spinning decently well. Tank Legs means that while she will not have any kind of evade whatsoever and no terrain compatibility at all at B rank across the board, minus, of course, S rank on Cyber, she is packing some very high base damage reduction and surprisingly mobility as well. With a mobility of 802, she's basically on medium B for even a Bishamon tier kind of high speed that these Tank Legs can bring. So you're not sacrificing the speed factor at all, which is kind of a given you have to embrace when using Tank Legs. In addition, she is also packing a very impressive 2007 per her shoot resist and her melee resist. So this means that she is going to have some very impressive and bulky damage reduction, and this also is not even factoring the stackable 30% she gets just for the sake of being a leg type. So this actress is going to be a very difficult one to beat down as long as she's on the field. In terms of other stats, she is packing some very impressive numbers across the board. In terms of armor, she's packing about 5,100 for the head, about 4,620 per arm, and about 5,400 for the legs, so very healthy HP pool. In terms of power, that really leaves nothing to be desired between almost 2,200 and almost 2,400 per arm. Of course, at the cost that the heat and cool stats are not the highest at between the low to high 500s between heat and cool on both arms. So she's not going to be super quick on the field, and this is going to be one of her big drawbacks. But in the right hands and on the right terrain, this can be fixed relatively easily depending on how you choose to use her. All this being said, though, as a pure set score, I very easily have to rate her a pretty well-rounded 7 out of 10, and I kind of had to talk myself into that one. Primarily on the grounds that even though her kit does synergize with itself remarkably well, she can use Inferno in spinning basically right from square one. She is very quick for a tank leg, an impressive damage reduction and HP and power. Plus, then that's not even touching on any modifiers that go in based on Metaforce charge, and a leg ability that also synergizes with it. There are still a number of particular pain points to be aware of when using Cinema Queen. The first of which, as mentioned, is that with Self-Restore, you only get one use. So do make sure that if you're going to use it, that you use both your arms at least once first, or you are in the corner about ready to die with nothing more than your head. So use it either as life insurance, or after you end up using both arms for an encore. With Inferno and spinning, do mind the cautionary use of the blowaway or suction abilities of both arms respectively, as when timed can be perfect for stalling, when mistimed can be very bad for you. And with tank legs, again, she can hold herself remarkably well and she is not lacking in the speed factor, but the inability to evade, just keep that in mind, as a lot of high PvP teams will be using a lot of ailments, which means she will be basically guaranteed to take every single one of them, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. As mixed parts, I do have to rate her equally at a 7 out of 10 as well, given that even though her kit does synergize weirdly well with itself, you can also mix up the parts to really spice up the game. The leg ability of Tenacity actually gives a lot of really big possibilities for self-destructive users, such as, say, Microwave, or Sacrifice, or even something similar to that, or if you choose to mix it up with, say, Black Cruz as an example, who specializes in HP control. This might be a really good leg that you could use to make use with that. Inferno and spinning, both very powerful arms with slight crowd control if you time them right, as well as having even higher damage bonuses relative to Metaforce charge. And Self-Restore, as much as it can be a very useful part, again, just bear in mind you only get one charge. So if you are planning to use Cinema Queen at all, especially as a pure set, do make sure that you pack somebody on the field that has First Aid or Revive, or something that can bring a lot of parts back at once to make sure she stays on the field as long as possible.